I have kind of like a big question for you because, you know, as a mom and as an empowered Black woman, I feel like you probably have an opinion on what happened in Ferguson, Missouri, and I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, which is about 15 or 20 minutes away from Ferguson. And, you know, you're someone who I was just dying to know your take on this, because I think, you know, your opinion is valued by so many, and I'd love to share that with, you know, everyone out there watching, you know, your feelings on this, and also how women that, you know, are dealing with trauma that might be similar to this can deal with it in a healthier way, if that's even possible. So I kind of throw that over to you. Okay.
Well, I would say as a mother, as a Black woman, and as a mother who has a son, the events in Ferguson have been heartbreaking. And one thing I know is that, and I always think about when I see young men in the street, you know, just at night or walking home. I live in Harlem, so the community is still really intact. You know, it's one of the few places in New York where there hasn't been like complete gentrification. Yeah. It's still like, there's still some communities where it's like it was, you know, 10 years ago. So I see these boys and I'm always, like, I feel like like a mother to them, I'm always like praying. Because you never know who it is that you're seeing, and their potential in this world could be taken away in seconds. Yeah. And so, like, knowing that this man was on his way to go to college, and to know that you feel as a mother that you've done all your best to raise your children up, and they grow up, and now they're headed out into the adult world, and then their lives are cut short. Yeah,
next day, you never see them again. I can't imagine that.
Heartbreaking. And having a son, what I think about is, you know, like, when they're little, like, everyone's like, oh, they're so cute, and, you know, and then when they get older, the same people who think that they're cute are trying to put them in jail.
Two women like us can sit on this couch, right, and have totally different backgrounds, be totally different colors, and, like, it doesn't occur to us, you know, like, it doesn't matter. But then, like, you know, in other places all around the world, color is such like it's causing people to be violent. And I know that, you know, it hasn't been a long time since, you know, things were very different in this country, but it really shocks me that today, you know, in 2014, like, we still have setbacks.
I mean, it's not that it's become, let me say that again. It's not that it's gotten better, it's just gotten different. I think that, you know, if we look at how the prison industrial system is set up, it's basically, I mean, from when slavery was abolished, they set up a prison industrial system that could house the people that they really don't want, like, in the streets. The populations of people that are in prison, and for what they're in prison for, if we look at them, it's like Black youth, right? And so clearly, and there's tons of people doing bad stuff in the world, like, it's not a racial thing, but what it is that when you look at statistically who's going, it kind of doesn't make sense at this day and age. Like, why are so many, you know, young Black men getting killed by cops? Why are so many young Black men also going to prison?
And it's not so different within the Hispanic community either. I mean, I'm, you know, half Caucasian, half Latina, but I'm very much, you know, connected to my culture, and there's a lot of crime within the Hispanic community as well. And I mean, I don't know, you know, if it's all warranted, you know, like, or if, you know, Hispanics are targeted. I mean, it is.
I feel like there's certain targeting, and I don't think that we have to live in a world where we're, you know, where that's like at the forefront, so that you're walking down the street thinking everything's an attack. Because I certainly don't walk down the street and think like, oh, this person like cut me off because I'm Black, or oh, I don't think that way. But there are moments, you know, to be honest, there are moments where, you know, I had this when I was traveling internationally recently, where I was late for a connection flight, and it wasn't my fault, it's just sort of how it went. And the lady at the gate had the power to let me in because the plane was still there, and it was a regional flight once I got to where I was going. So she had the power to let me on the flight, and she argued with me about why she wasn't going to let me on. And I was like, why don't you just call down and just let them know I'm going to come down? She would not. After 10 minutes, 3 other people came that she let on the flight that did not look like me. And I said, okay, so why do they get to come on and I don't, if the gate's closed?
Sue the airline for
right?
that.
Which I'm gonna out them. But the thing is that then it makes you think, right? Like, okay, so that's clearly a race thing.
Yeah, this is going on.
Right, it does happen. It doesn't mean that just because there's been so much progress and people are like, oh, we have this black president, like everything's fine. There is still so many people who hate in this world, which is why we have to do our work to help spread more light.
When I was in high school in St. Louis, there were only a handful of black students and even less Latino students. So we, kind of shared stories and everything, just like kids do in high school. And my black friends always complained about being stopped late at night when they were driving. So when we had parties like high school kids do, there are 2 friends of mine, one of them was Rob, and he would constantly get stopped on his way home. He didn't drink, he was an athlete, he wasn't doing anything wrong. He was just driving back home, and that was always something that they expected to happen in St. Louis, Missouri. And it made me really sad, and yes, there are definitely all these parts to the Michael Brown story, that I'm sure we're going to continue to hear more about, but at the root of it, for me, is that that police or the authority in Missouri are definitely discriminating from the beginning. Before anything happens, before anything's gone wrong, they're definitely looking to pull over young black men.
Right. What's important is for people who have the privilege and the ability to move through life without the discrimination, without those certain blocks in place, when they see injustice to speak.
Do something,
To speak, because so many times I remember growing up or seeing things where somebody saw something that was wrong and they could say something to rectify it and they didn't.
Yeah.
And if you sit there, even though you're good, or I'm someone who's really like cool, like this is my friend, whatever, but if you see an injustice happen and you don't speak to it, then you're part of the problem. And that's where we are now in this country, that even the people who are not racist, the people who, want to help, so-called, they don't do anything. They don't speak up. They see stuff happening and they don't, also, it's not just seeing things. It's like, when you hear somebody say something, be correcting them, or being, it's not like this idea of tolerance. It's not about being tolerant of people. It's about embracing, seeing that really the differences are so small. We need to actually embrace each other and learn to love each other.
There needs to be more black cops in St. Louis, Missouri as well, because like...
That too.
I mean, how can
But it's not even that. It's like you have a culture of... there's a culture that's built around fear and trepidation with black men, right?
And
that's a problem across this country.
That. I think that we need men from the black community, and I understand they don't want to be cops, but like
there's so many black cops
to change that. Well,
but they can't do it by themselves. That's the thing. They can't do it by themselves. Think about how people think about cops, though.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Right?
I would never want to be a cop.
So it's like, it's not like, you're starting off with like this great, it's like people think about firemen one way.
No, I know. And the cops
I think about cops in a totally different way.
The cops in Missouri are not known to be the nicest. I mean, I've had definitely, some run-ins with cops, you know, in that area where they haven't made me feel safe.
Right.
So when I first heard about this whole thing, I was like, okay, well, I'm not completely surprised by this, but I definitely feel like there needs to be more of like that level of embracing that you're talking about. Like we need to see that on the other side. Like, you know, if two groups have become sort of like enemies, you know, or like, you know, the Black community like hates the cops of Missouri because they think they're all.
But they should. It's like, look, there's no justice being served.
So
this is the reason why.
How do we bring that together?
Accountability. Like this, I mean, we saw it in the Trayvon Martin case where, okay, basically you can hunt down a kid who's minding his own business, shoot him dead, and then go live your life? Like, no, like what?
Yeah.
It's so basically like his life is not valued. The problem is that the lives of these young Black men are not being valued equally.
From all the work that you do, you know, with women and empowering them and supporting them through pregnancy and post-pregnancy, how can a woman that's going through a traumatic situation like this, how can she be stronger, you know, for herself and for all these other people that she, you know, might influence along the way?
Nothing in the world prepares you for the loss of a child. You know, people who have miscarriages when they don't, I mean, very early on, suffer. So imagine raising somebody up and having that many years of investment in terms of your love and your care and all the, you know, bonding over that period of time, to have them gone with no notice. It's just, that's it. There's nothing that prepares you in life for that. You know, when all this is said and done, when everything sort of settles, the dust settles on this, they don't get anything. Like, they don't get their son back.
Yeah.
There's no, like, even if justice is served, they still have to like continue through a life with loss. Let's not let it just settle. Like, use this experience and lift Mike Brown up through your voice and do something positive. Like, don't just talk about like the bad, because there's tons of bad.
Yeah.
But like, what can we do good? How can we bring this to a legislative level? Like, what can we do in terms of overturning some laws or putting some things in place, holding people accountable? I think that even though it is the hardest thing to have to deal with in life, you know, I have no suggestion. The only thing I could say is fall to your knees and pray, and have people around you to hold you, because there's nothing that can prepare you for it.
Yeah.
But what can get you onto the other side is to know that God is walking with you.
Well, I'm just happy that we have women like you to, you know, give us hope and advice and, you know, teach us how to be better moms or prepare to be moms. I think that that's really cool. And I think, you know, that the way that you empower women will be sort of like a preventative measure for this type of thing.
Latham Thomas is a woman who empowers for sure. See what she has to say about her company Mama Glow, being an entrepreneur, and finding your calling in my next video. And while you're at it, give this video a thumbs up and a share if you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching.